and to ensure public safety measures while maintaining transparency and public access. Members of the public may participate in this meeting at the Lancaster City Hall chambers or telephonically. This meeting will also be streamed live on Channel 28 and the city's website. And can we please have the roll?
Commissioners Cullen, Deloche,
Present.
Commissioner Hone will not be in attendance. Commissioner Joseph,
Present.
Commissioner Pope,
Present.
Vice Chair Carter,
Present.
Chairman Cannon.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And now I would like to ask our chair. Look at that. I just promoted you. I would like to ask our Commissioner Pope if he would do the invocation.
Awesome. If everyone could bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we have seen what can happen when people work together in this city, and I believe the grand opening of the hotel is a perfect example of that. We know that there is a lot of divisiveness in our culture right now that I'm sure each of us, independently of our backgrounds, could speak to. But right now, I want to focus on our common mission and our common purpose towards creating a better city for all of us together. So I ask that this holiday season, you bless us with the gifts and the leadership and the skills to be able to work together and to see one another beyond our misunderstandings of each other. I ask that we be able to work together more productively and more efficiently, no matter who you are or where you come from, and that we can all make sure that we have a good holiday season together and start 2022 off incredibly strong. In God's name I pray, amen. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. And if
Yes.
all those present can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, sir.
Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
Under God, indivisible,
and justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all.
For all, indivisible.
Let's focus on that indivisible part.
Thank you so much. So consent calendar. Are there any speakers for the consent calendar?
We do not have any speaker cards, nor do we have any callers.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Commissioner Pope and seconded by Commissioner Deloche. Can you please call the roll?
Commissioners Deloche,
Aye.
Joseph,
Aye.
Pope,
Aye.
Vice Chair Carter,
Aye.
Chairman Cannon.
Aye.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you. Continued business, CB1. If you guys all, if you're here, you have a handout. And if you guys have received your emails that are online, we have here a draft of our equity report that we've put together. All of us have created input, whether verbally or written input. And so I would like to go over it a bit. I won't read it verbatim, but we did say that we were going to have a public safety component, a civic engagement component, and a economic prosperity component. And I thought that the format should not have, I tried to make the format into specifically those three things, but when I did that, everything overlapped so much that I was like, you know what? The format doesn't have to be in those specific three components, but what we have listed here does hit it. The very first one on this handout would be the co-produced policing. We did quote from the body cam press release on 8/18. The city is working to establish a hybrid law enforcement model for the city of Lancaster to supplement the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to provide law enforcement and law enforcement related services in a strategic and coordinated manner for increased safety and responsiveness. There was some action taken on that on behalf of the commission. Myself, I participated in the training for the members that included members of the city council and public safety staff, where consultants outlined a co-produced policing model, which would require community input and buy-in to be effective. And we do have a recommendation on that, and the recommendation would be a targeted strategy of community outreach. An example of that would be a series of public service announcements on different platforms designed to educate citizens on what co-produced policing is, how it fits into our hybrid law enforcement model, and where the people fit in that process. I think it's important for us to make this recommendation to the City Council because we need to keep the public up to speed on this process, especially for not just trust, but also if that is the model that was presented to us, then we should move forward with that. And I think it's time to enlist people in that process. We will defer to the Public Safety Department on when they will bring the community in, but I believe how is important. And I think before we say, hey, come be a part of this, we should be trying to educate people on what it is we're asking them to be a part of, right? What's coming, so that they don't feel like it's just sprung up on them. And another recommendation under that would be the office of the Public Safety Director shall be separate from the office of Police Chief, because policing is just part of public safety. It's not all of public safety. I personally do believe that the Public Safety Director, and as you all know, or if you don't know now, you know, we are in the midst of looking for a new Public Safety Director. And whoever that person should be, I believe, and I think that members of this commission would agree with me, that they should have law enforcement background, or at least familiar with law enforcement and how laws are enforced. And our Public Safety Director was very well versed in that, and he did a very good job. Lee DeRico, I thank you for your service. I thank you for what you've done for this community with our public safety and for all the time that you've put into this. And I think that when we look for our new Public Safety Director, yes, they should have a law enforcement background, and yes, they should be familiar with some form of law enforcement. But I also think it's important moving forward that we understand as a city, that we exhibit that policing is not all of public safety, and all of public safety is not policing. And that starts by making sure that our Public Safety Director and our Police Chief, whoever he or she may be, that those offices are not the same.
Absolutely.
We've talked about this before. The city of Lancaster is where opportunity meets mentality, and the Social Equity Commission affirms that the city of Lancaster is where opportunity meets mentality. And some of the action we've taken in regards to that is that in partnership with LA County, AJCC, and other community organizations, the city was able to host a youth job and resource fair this summer. We're still in 2021, in which nearly 200 young people were connected to resources and to career opportunities, which I think was amazing. And I was very inspired by the level of commitment that these young people put into that, and inspired by their mentality to go out there and to get a job, be productive members of their community. And I'm very excited that there's going to be another one of these that is focused on foster youth and helping them get resources coming is it this winter?
Yes.
Next year, but this
January.
winter, in January. Yes. And so I'm looking for, and I believe that's going to be hosted at Sergeant Owens Memorial Park. And I'm very excited to be involved in that as well. And I'm very excited to, once those flyers are out, to get that information to our networks. But there is a recommendation for that. And this kind of puts in something that we've talked about, with some of you separately, and that we've talked about in these meetings. The recommendation would be that the city sponsored an event aimed at showcasing local aspiring small business owners, providing them access to investors, and fostering a new wave of entrepreneurship in Lancaster. Job fairs are fun. Job fairs are great. I think that we should continue to have jobs and resource fairs, but I also would like for us to have an event where we can showcase and have a fair of local entrepreneurs, that person that's out there in the community who is trying to start up a clothing business, or that person in the community that started a security company, whatever that may be, whatever business they may be. If we can have a fair like that, where the people that come to see what is provided are not people necessarily looking for jobs, but investors looking to invest in our community. And I can think of, well, I won't say this because I can think of many people that have access to investors, but I can't think of anybody more than the members of our city council who are business owners themselves, who know of investors that would want to invest in this community. So just think about that, how that could go. And
Chairman Cannon, can I interject?
absolutely.
We actually work with and I think this might be a good opportunity to partner with the Small Business Development Center.
Yes.
That's actually what they do. They support small business. They actually played a pretty significant role during COVID and just educating small businesses on how to, go about getting PPP loans and things of that nature. So I think this is a great opportunity to bring them in and have them, because they are experts in that field, and give our small businesses an opportunity to get some advice and also to get information and understand the loans and the money that's available to them. So that's just wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Patty. And I just wrote that down because I would like to, once we get going on that, that will be one of our first contacts to help us get that started up. And hopefully before we present it to the city council, we can say that, hopefully we will. When we present to the city council, we can say we've reached out to the Small Business Development Center, and it'll be great to partner with them on that. Thank you so much for that, Patty.
Sure.
And support for first-time renters and buyers. We talked about rental history and how there are people in our community right now who have the means to go out and rent, and some even buy homes. But there are some obstacles to that, and I think that most of it stems from education or how to navigate the housing market and how to navigate a rental application, really, and how best to put that on there. Do I need a roommate? Do I need somebody, a co-signer? What can I do?
Salary requirements?
A salary
That's
requirement.
a big one.
Absolutely. I want to thank Commissioner Deloche for providing us with these stats. According to the 2019 census data, most of the households have a property value between $300,000 and $400,000. Likewise, a large share of shared incomes in the homes is between $75,000 and $100,000. Despite this fact, the Antelope Valley's homelessness population continues to increase. We have nearly 5,000 homeless or displaced people in the valley. It should be noted that in many cities in America, the pandemic affected people of color to a greater degree. And homeownership is key. Far too many residents pay over $1,500 a month for rent or are ineligible to purchase a home. Or to navigate property taxes. Mortgage or insurance would be less than the current rent they're paying, and the city has helped to build low-income housing apartments, but we believe it is time to create a more working class, low to fair income homeowners. This will free up more apartments for vouchers or shared housing, increase city revenue, and possibly increase voter turnout because most Americans like to be a part of the city where they pay taxes from. So the recommendation that we would present would be creating a program for not just first-time buyers, but in a lot of cities, I've done the research, a lot of cities do have programs for first-time buyers, but I believe that we should be inclusive because we have a huge rental market out here in the city of Lancaster. It should also be inclusive for first-time renters as well. So what would that include? These workshops would include, first it would be created by members of the commission, staff, and relevant city departments. But I think it's good to bring in landlords and realtors and property managers and the goal of this would be to set up aspiring citizens for success when looking for housing. Persons completing the workshop would know how to best complete rental applications, be approved for mortgages, improve their credit, and pretty much what it takes to be a successful renter or homeowner in the city of Lancaster or even in the greater Antelope Valley. I also believe, and here's where the cha-ching comes in, I also believe that there should be $1,000 grants for persons who do complete this workshop. Also, there should be tax incentives for landlords who rent to persons completing this workshop, as well as those who buy homes after the workshop. That means that if you go through this workshop and you get a home because of this workshop, $1,000 is going to help a lot. You know, whether you get a loan or not, if you're renting a home, $1,000 is going to help a lot. And that is, we talked about gentrification and how that can affect people, and how that affects all people. And I believe this is a good start to mitigate that. But first and foremost, we can create that workshop. We can get together a working group of landlords, realtors, property managers, people in the housing departments, and locally, and let's put that together. And I think we can do that within, I'll be ambitious, I think we could do that within 30 days, create a workshop within 30 days. I've done it in 20 days. And so I think that is important. I want to read the rationale for this. Many people in our city have the means to buy or rent homes, but their lack of rental history, financial literacy, or other factors make it less likely to get approved for a home loan or to rent a property. This initiative will aid in solidifying everyone's place in our community, and education is key to success. This is an opportunity for folks to become educated about the housing market and to start off on the right foot.
Chairman Cannon, can I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
So we do have a housing department in our in the city, and I actually work within that department. I think this is a great opportunity to have. We have a housing manager. His name is Chris Ani. And I know he's working on a lot of different programs, and he would probably love to hear, feedback from the commission in terms of, some things that could potentially be beneficial to the community. And then he can also share some of the ideas and some of the plans that he has in place. I'd love to invite him to a meeting. I think probably the January meeting would be ideal for him to talk about some of those things and to get feedback, and for him to hear, that these are some of the things that that the commissioners are hearing from the community, that there's a need for education, that there's a need for some assistance in terms of how to go about the purchasing process and things of that nature. So just a suggestion, if you guys are interested, we'd be happy to reach out and get that set up.
Very interested. I'm very interested in inviting him to our next commission meeting, but I'm also interested in between now and that meeting, because we will be creating a subcommittee today in charge of comprising the equity report and language and turn it into the presentation to the City Council. I would like for him to meet with the subcommittee as well, so that we could, have that meeting and then bring him to the commission meeting. So if you could reach out to him after this meeting, and let's schedule that with the members. Thank you so much, Patty. So I have my handy dandy pen here. Vaccination efforts. So at the direction of the council, the Social Equity Commission and deputy mayors created a strategy for increasing COVID-19 immunizations by combating disinformation and meeting people where they are. The actions that we've taken would be we've helped to get vaccination sites at the Welcome Back Lancaster event, as well as the Monday Night Bites events. And we had a very successful Facebook town hall with our deputy mayors on our COVID-19 strike team, where we were able to be on the front lines of disinformation, which would be Facebook. So that was amazing. I thank our deputy mayors for coming in and helping us come up with those strategies. And I believe we should be continuing on that strategy of meeting people where they are. And here in the report, we do have the results from our August initiatives. And we were able to reach a total of about almost 10,000 people, which is great. And I cannot wait to do another town hall or to come up with another way of how we really meet people where they are. Because we were at the City Council meeting yesterday. And disinformation is still out there. People still call into City Council meetings peddling disinformation. And so it's important for us to take that on for the betterment of the public safety in our community and quality of life. We believe the city has done all it can to influence people to take the vaccine. We recommend a strategy of providing people with the best information so that they can make their best informed decision regarding COVID-19 vaccines. People feel forced, and the more the government pushes, the more people resist. We cannot play into the hands of those who spread disinformation. We must recognize this and focus our efforts on dispelling information rigorously and deliberately. And that brings us into our fifth item in this report, which would be combating disinformation. And the dangers of letting disinformation run rapid in our community isn't exclusive to COVID-19. False perception caused by disinformation threatens our public safety. It peddles conspiracy theories about our council, mistrust in law enforcement, and a misinterpretation of laws and procedures. With most disinformation originating online, we believe the best way to combat it is to recruit our citizens who are on the front lines, young people. So, what would that look like? Our recommendation would be outreach in the schools in the form of assemblies. I can do an assembly. Gio can do an assembly. I believe our resident AP knows a lot about assemblies. So that we could teach young people what disinformation is, how it spreads, and how they can help us to dispel it. If we could have an army of young people in the city of Lancaster that can comment on something on Facebook or know how to report something that spreads dangerous lies, that can stop it from spilling on the craziness up online into our streets or into our council meetings, then I believe that we will see a change. I think that is a great strategy, not with just COVID-19, but with our sheriff's department, with procedures and policies. More specifically, and I'll just say this, it's dangerous, and I've seen this so many times. It's dangerous when we have people, especially young people of color, when they interact with law enforcement, and they have been told something, and we see this a lot, Gio too, online. If you've ever been stopped by a police officer, here's what you can do. If people don't know their rights when they're interacting with law enforcement, that is dangerous. When people are interacting with law enforcement based on rights that they think that they have, but they don't, that is also dangerous. It puts lives at risk. It puts our deputies at risk, and it puts our citizens at risk. So if we can help young people understand, like, hey, this isn't just something that is online. This isn't something that affects somebody that you don't know. It affects you too, right? If we're pushing out disinformation, if people are disinformed, there's a difference between disinformed and misinformed. Misinformed is saying something that's not true by accident because you've been disinformed. Disinformed is spreading lies deliberately. Disinformation is very dangerous. We've seen that on a local and a national level. And so I believe that getting in the schools and showing face and showing young people that, hey, the city would like for you to help us take on this battle, to help us dispel disinformation, because we know that you can do it. We know that the people on the front lines are usually the people that know what to do, the people that know how best to do it. And when you see something that is a lie, when you see something that's a dangerous lie, a big lie, that you have a responsibility to your community to not just scroll past it. We're not asking you to get into a Twitter or a Facebook fight, but reporting something and getting it off the web goes a long way. And also talking to your peers about, hey, like, I know this is spreading on, I know this is spreading around, or hey, I heard you say something that, isn't really true or sounds like disinformation. What's your source? Right? Where's your source? Understanding what a credible source is and what a credible source isn't. Understanding what secondhand information is and what it isn't. And understanding how that is a danger to your community. I think we'll get a great response from that if we can go into the schools and officially, unofficially deputize our students from high school. I think we could do it in the middle school level, in the high school level, and at the college level. And that also helps with civic engagement. It also helps for us to show face with our young people and to show them that our perspectives are being broadcasted here for the entire city. People want to help. People don't know how best to help. And there's the young people in those schools who feel as if though they have nothing to offer. But there are a lot of social media influencers in our schools. So if we can help dispel those disinformation, I think we will make the city a safer place. And last but not least, most definitely not least, voter registration. Decisions in our city are made by the voters through their representatives or by voting for ballot measures. The Social Equity Commission is committed to to increase voter registration and turnout, to add more voices to the process. It says prices, typo, to the process of local government and in the spirit of equity. The recommendations for that would be voter registration booths at every city event. We just had a Magic Boulevard event. It would be nice to have a booth there with people with voter registration forms so people can come and register to vote. It'd be nice to have someone registering people to vote at Monday Night Bites or at any other city event. I think that's good, and it also shows people, even if they are already registered, it shows people how the city really wants
Takes it seriously.
Exactly. They want to hear your voice. We want to hear your voice. And a lot of people don't know how powerful their vote is. A lot of people don't even think to register to vote. A lot of people don't even think to vote. I also believe that we should have you know what Rock the Vote is?
Yes.
You know what Rock? Everybody knows what Rock the Vote is. We should have something like that in the city. We should have, I think we should have it in the fall, 2022, where we could also is a chance to showcase local artists because there are a lot of talented people in our city, and also they could put on a concert for the community with the message of encouraging people to vote in the next election. And I know that in doing this, I was trying to, and this was my idea, but when I thought about this, I was trying to be very careful about seeming partisan, and seeming like, that we were trying to influence an election. And I don't think that's it. I don't think that is. I quickly put it out of my mind because it didn't go into it. What that would do is it will increase voter turnout, because how best can a city know what the voters want and where the people are if not for their votes? And there's a significant number of registered voters that are registered to vote in this city that don't exercise that right. And I think that it is hard to say that elections are equitable if we're not hearing everyone's voice. And that's not to say that the city is making elections unequitable. Not at all. The city of Lancaster has done great things to make access to voting, whether it be mail-in ballots or whether it be mailers. People, the city is doing good. But if we could incentivize some type of responsibility and help people understand that they have a responsibility, a role to participate in this, so that we know where you are, so that we know what you want. Because what's the saying, Gio, Commissioner Deloche? Closed mouths don't get fed. And so I think that doing that is a good first step. And also, Rock the Votes are fun. Really fun, and they're a hit, and we could even probably get Beyonce up in here to to see Love on Top. Beyonce, if you're listening, I love you. But yes, this is what we have. So I would like to open it CB1 up for discussion from the commission about this, and feel free to have questions, comments, concerns, additions, edits, subtractions.
Commissioner Deloche.
Commissioner Deloche, did you want to hop in on this?
Yes. Thank you. So my recommendation or question was on creating item 3. And you spoke about having a workshop, and if participants take place, they would get $1,000. So I know that $1,000 will help, and I'm with it. But we didn't talk about the length of the workshop, so maybe that's something that we should make sure we clarify the length of the workshop. Would it need to be a series? Because what we wouldn't want is for people to come just because they want the $1,000. We want it to, again, we want to have an impact. So maybe putting a time on it. Would it be a series, four meetings over a month in order to get the money? But I like the idea, but we definitely need to talk about that. You also mentioned 30 days that we could put it together. But again, would we have funds to be able to in 30 days? So just being clear about, we would have to have a budget to even give anybody any money. So just making sure that we don't move faster than the speed of acceptance or the city council. Other than that, that's That's all I have. I can save the rest for the end.
Thank you, Commissioner Deloche. That's why I think that starting first, we should create the workshop in conjunction with realtors, property owners, and city staff in the relevant departments, and especially hearing from the housing manager as well will help, because then we will be able to come up with something that's, okay, so this is the length of the program. We could either do it in a series, or we could do it in the form of if you pass the curriculum, or that's something that we will be working out in the working group that will create the workshop. And then once we work that out, then we will present to City Council, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to give $1,000 grants to people that complete this workshop, and we're thinking that if we can get 50 people in, we're going to need about $50,000 into that program to be able to get each of those people who completed those funds. So I believe how much we're going to need will be contingent on how many people are we going to accept in the program. And I think that all of that will be worked out once we actually create the workshop and sit down with those working groups. And that's why I asked, I did the 30 days, right? And so if we could sit down and with the relevant stakeholders within 30 days and come up and iron something out, then by early next year, we'll be able to come to City Council with, this is what we've created, this is what we've sat down and we've created with these stakeholders, this is how much this is the price estimate of how much this will cost, and so on and so forth. So most definitely don't want to put the cart before the horse. So before we ask for money, before we say that we have a workshop, we got to create the workshop.
Actually, I was going to make a suggestion. I think the focus for the group should be more on the concepts, because I think there's still an opportunity. Like the SPDC thing is a good example, right? I mean, we don't need to create something new when there's a partnership that could potentially, facilitate the activity that you're looking for. Same thing with this activity. I think the concept is there. So now, let's meet with the subcommittee, or kind of flesh out exactly what that looks like, instead of committing to something, because we don't know if there's $50,000 available, right, to do something like that. So we just want to make sure that we understand what's available, and then we actually kind of plan it out for each of the different categories. Just my thought.
Thank you, Patty. Commissioner Joseph?
Yes, I was saying, with the even trying to get funds, to give people an incentive, if we're working with landlords and first-time renters, then you're not going to get $1,000. We're going to work with some landlords who are willing to work with you if you don't have the experience, and that can be put in a deposit that, the landlord gets an incentive for renting to that person. And if they go through their year lease and they've done good, then they get their deposit back. It's, it's incentive both ways, those type of things. And then $1,000 towards housing. If you looked at the current housing market, that does nothing. We have to, if we really want to create some, I wanted to do something like we did with the developer for Kensington Square, but we need to do that for homeowners. We have so many renters out here that can't buy a home because of those credit cards, because they don't have that down payment. That's why the rent's so high up here now. So we need to create something, that the city should definitely be on board with. Homeowners pay taxes. That's revenue for the city. We need to create a program that's not like the current program. If anybody's tried to buy a house, I mean, you have to make right now to buy a house in Lancaster, you better at least make $60,000 to $75,000 a year, and you're still scratching to try to get one of these houses. So, if we're we definitely need to create some property out here that a renter who's got good history, but you got a few credit cards that you can't pay. Well, we can create some programs for people to become homeowners, not the capitalistic way that's going on right now. That's got banks, making money and a lot of us struggling.
Thank you. And let's be clear, too, that there is that this program will help for those people who have the means, those young people who are living with their parents right now who can move out. Like I said, somebody who's on TikTok right now can wake up tomorrow and be a millionaire. Somebody who's on YouTube right now can wake up tomorrow, or before the sun comes up tomorrow, they will be made $10,000. Or somebody that makes their means via DoorDash or Uber Eats, Grubhub, Uber, something like that. Whereas if you put that on an application to rent a home, it won't fly. So this could help, right? This helps with providing incentives. Is important I think it's important to provide incentives for landlords to do that, because the return on that investment will be immense. People stay in this community. They'll spend money in this community. That $1,000 will provide cushion for somebody just going out. That could be a security deposit for somebody, you know? Or if you just bought a home, you know, and that extra $1,000 can help you buy a refrigerator, you know, or a washing machine or something like that. It's hard. As a father myself, as a parent, and I think a lot of parents know this, it's hard being a parent, trying to put your kids through college, trying to put a roof over their head and improve their quality of life. It's hard, and it should be hard. It's something that should be hard. I enjoy some of the difficulties of parenting, of being a part of a family, but it's supposed to be hard, but we can make it a little bit easier. $1,000 sometimes can make or break somebody, especially in the housing market. And there are a lot of resources out there for people, for first-time home buyers. There's state resources, there's county resources, but it should just be a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. Just a little bit easier. It should be hard, but just a little bit easier. Any other commissioners? Go ahead.
Yes. Okay, so I am looking over this equity report, and I am in love with the direction that we're going. There are just a few things that I wanted to talk about. So, first things first, with the co-produced policing portion of this equity report, I think that in this report, there also needs to be a clear definition of a hybrid model. Like, what exactly is it? Because we have been talking a lot about like the hybrid model and policing and whatnot, but if something is not clearly defined, it is not transparent. Yes. And we want for this to be as transparent as possible. So if there is not a definition, we need to get one so that come January, this is in this report. Because if we don't define this, it also becomes a buzzword. And the thing that people hate about buzzwords is that they are so broad and they don't have definition, but they are used all the time. And I want to be sure that everybody knows what this hybrid model is. Because this speaks to a lot of what people were concerned about last June. Yes. So I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying it needs to be clearly defined. Let's see. Also, when we're talking about the co-produced policing model, also addressing that on social media. We have done, or I don't want to say we, the city staff have done a complete revamp of our social media presence. And so I believe that with that presence, we have a very powerful tool at our disposal in order to be able to increase transparency. And so I believe that with that, also comes the responsibility of us as a commission to provide those definitions for people via social media, because that is where they're going to engage with that information the most. So just as we've put like announcements out for the public safety director on our Instagram, I believe that we should also provide a definition for this hybrid model and announce it on Instagram and on our city social media so that people know what this is. Because a well-informed citizenry, it's what propels democracy forward. So I really think that that is something that we should look to pursue. Also, when we're talking about social equity, what I really want to challenge us to do for 2022 is to underscore exactly what our priorities are going to be. Because this equity report, it provides us a good framework, but I feel as though there are a lot of portions of the population that we're missing here. So, for example, I don't think that there's specifically anything specifically targeting youth enfranchisement. And we are young members of this commission. We are young members of our city government. And so I believe that we should be doing some work to partner with the Impact Commission. Both you and I were in attendance of the city council meeting last night. And I believe that you and I both saw how transformational of an impact that that commission has on young people. And I believe...
Which commission, Chairman Pope? The Impact, are you talking about the Impact Group?
Yes, they started out as a commission, so I just...
You've got to clearly define.
Yes.
You need to that become a buzzword.
It could. Impact could become a buzzword. Oh, my gosh. They started out as a commission, and then they morphed sort of into a group. So apologies for that. But one of the things that they work on so much is youth empowerment, so young people feeling involved in the city. And I believe that us as young people and us as commissioners in general, whose framework is social equity, I believe it would be really good to do some more partnerships with them. So I think that this should be included in.
What are you thinking? What kind of partnership?
So, for example, yesterday they were talking, during their presentation, they were talking a lot about the workshops that they were administering, and they had kind of put a halt to those workshops because of the pandemic and whatnot. I believe it would be awesome to revisit some of those, because one of the things that I realized right now, we are going through the Great Resignation, but it's still so difficult, and I mean so difficult for people to get jobs. One of my friends has a college diploma, worked in government before, still hard for her to get a job, and she
Yes.
just graduated. And I don't want to say that.
Tell them to apply for LASA. I'm sorry, I had to say that before you stop.
Pardon?
Tell them to apply for LASA, Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority. There's so many jobs.
Shameless plug.
So, when this is Vice Chair Carter, and I want to add to that. So when you're done speaking,
Vice Chair, let's let Commissioner Pope finish. He still has the floor.
Thank you. So it's really hard for folks to get jobs right now, and that shouldn't be the case. California is the 5th largest economy in the world, if it was measured independently according to GDP. And so we have a ton of opportunities that exist out here. And it's not the fault of anyone, but I believe it's sort of a messaging problem. So maybe making sure that we as a commission are partnering with the Impact Group to do resume building workshops and what have you. They've already clearly indicated that as one of their priorities. So partnering with that, I think, would be a very good first step to just extend the relative work of our commission. And then I also wanted to point to something else very briefly, but I will save that for when we are not discussing the equity report. Moving on to support for first-time renters and buyers. I know that yesterday one of the things that was covered was Senate Bill 9 in the city council meeting. So I believe just also our commission doing some sort of definition of that on social media so that people understand what Senate Bill 9 is, because that is going to impact housing in the Antelope Valley and in Lancaster and in California in general for decades. So I believe doing some messaging on that, as well as affordable housing. All of these conversations, I think, are conversations that we should definitely be taking part in. Because unfortunately, if you are a young person working a minimum wage job out here in Lancaster, it is unaffordable for you to buy an apartment. Just flat out, point blank. I've had several conversations with young people at the colleges and whatnot, and it's just entirely too unaffordable. With a roommate. And I get that we live in California, but this is not okay. This is a problem. So whatever work that we are going to do on that front, I definitely applaud. speeding up just a little bit, you had also talked about being a good digital citizen and partnering with some of the schools to talk about why it is so important to be a good digital citizen. Our generation is growing up in an era in which everybody has access to everything, including people's personal records and things of that nature. And I don't believe that there are a lot of people that understand the gravity and the severity of that landscape yet. So if we are able to partner with schools, as you were talking about, I believe that that would be absolutely amazing. But I really just want to challenge us to clearly define our goals for next year. Like really clearly define our goals for next year, because we've had this year to really figure out what works, what doesn't work. So I believe that next year is truly going to need to be the year of action. And by defining social equity and exactly which groups we are trying to enfranchise, I believe is going to be increasingly important. So we are trying to enfranchise anyone basically that's considered a minority. So whether you are a young person, a senior, a person that is differently abled, some sort of racial minority, if you are LGBTQ+, these are all people that we are going to have to work to enfranchise, and I want to make sure that our plan is encompassing of all those different minority needs.
Right.
And then one of the last things that I will challenge us to do is, since we are all in leadership, we have all heard of SMART goals. And one of the really important aspects of a SMART goal is making sure that it is time-bound. So I know that we have set some rough guidelines for exactly kind of like what we want to tackle for next year. And I know that there were a little like hiccups in making sure that everyone had like access to understanding like what exactly were our priorities, but I believe like right about now, when everything is starting to go into recess because of the holidays, I believe that this is going to be a really good time for all of our commissioners to really try to understand what their priorities are. So in January, when we are formulating these documents, everybody is clear on exactly what their priorities are. And so when we're talking about things like doing vaccine access or voter registration or co-produced policing or the housing workshop, making sure that there is a timeline. I think it would be a great idea for you or I or whoever wants to clearly produce a timeline so that we can hold ourselves accountable to this is what we wanted to accomplish at this stage, this is what we wanted to accomplish at this stage. Because speaking a little bit more frankly for a second, a commission has a term which lapses every 2 years. And so we served the first year of our term. The next year of our term, I really want for it to be about impact. Yes, I use the buzzword. But I really, really want for this to be about impact. And I think that that's also challenging, like drifting away from the equity report for just a second, challenging all of our commissioners to understand and see how present they can be during this time, because we have, absolutely, because we have a lot of work ahead of us. And the weight of the world shouldn't be on one person's shoulders, it should be on 7. So I really just want to make sure that we are challenging ourselves to acknowledge that and also acknowledge that we are not the exception to the rule.
Yes.
So those are my comments for the equity report. I will save some of those until after we finish our discussion on that. But yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Pope. Couldn't agree more. Most definitely, let me be clear, when we vote to move forward, when we vote for this to be in our equity report, what we're doing today, just so everybody's clear, is setting our priorities for the next year. All of these items and the recommendations of these items, that's why the goal is to present this in the beginning of the year to the City Council. This is what our goals are. Our goals are to establish and clearly define hybrid law enforcement, and to understand, for our communities to understand that. Our goal is our priority is to combat disinformation. Our priorities will be to have support for first-time renters and buyers. And so these are our priorities for the next year. If we agree tonight, these will be our priorities for the next year. And that's what this whole year that we've been on this commission has been, is understanding where people are, looking at the data that has been gathered by others and by our individual networks as well to best implement that. And I think that we've spent this year doing some pretty good work. I think we've spent this year being present in some, pretty sometimes combative settings. But this right here will be setting our goals for the next year. Most definitely a timeline should be presented. And we start with the subcommittee that we're going to be creating tonight, where they will be tasked with compiling this equity report, and we'll give them a timeline on when we would like for them to have that done and comprise. And once we have the equity report, because we can't start without certain assurances, right? So for the workshops, for example, we can't start until we get direction for that. And so we can present that this is what we have, this is how much this is going to cost, and this is what we're going to move forward with. So when we present this to the city council, we're presenting that this is what we've done, and this is what we will be doing over the next year, working on these recommendations. Now, some of these things require council directions. Some of them will work better with council direction. Some of them is different when we have council direction to create a workshop rather than trying to
do it all independently.
Do it all independently, right? And I know some people will disagree with that, but I think it's important because it's different when we're saying, okay, we're doing this at the direction of council. We've presented to the city council. We got a green light on this from the city council. Let's go ahead and do this. And so most definitely, I also wanted to address what you said about social media. That will be a part of the PSAs, the public service announcements that I said, that everything you said about how we should be clearly defining law enforcement model, using social media to increase transparency, all of that will be what we will be trying to do in item 1,
okay,
right, in those recommendations. So I definitely agree with that. Vice Chair Carter?
Okay, thank you. I have quite a few probably additions to the equity report, or some things I wanted to say. And thank you, Giovanni. Basically, a few things you said, they just, they're just spot on. But I would like to just chime in with just some thoughts. And when we look at economic prosperity and we talk about, I see a lot of emphasis we're having on small business ownership and possibly people working independently. But I do think we need to not forget about the fact that there are people who are going to need just like a regular job that you go to, that you apply for, and that you work at, and you earn your living through that process, and not everybody will be a business owner. And I keep thinking that I don't see this on our equity report, and it's an area that we really do need to address. Something that Giovanni brought up is a friend or something that he has that has recently graduated from high school, has a bachelor's degree, and said finding themselves having a hard time getting a job in this area. And I have to say that about a year or so ago, I did an informal survey, and I found out that to be there's quite a few people in this area who are young, who have bachelor's degrees or higher education, and they are having hard times finding jobs. Some of the feedback that I had were people moving out of the area. And in fact, there was an incident that I heard about where a young man tried to take his own life because he had been struggling so hard to find a job in the Lancaster area. And he eventually did find a job, but outside of the area. So I would really like to submit that we really consider working with employers and organizations within this city, Lancaster and Antelope Valley as a whole, that do have opportunities. There are even some of our larger employers, such as I'll put in the Boeing, the Air Force Base here, mentioned one of the Commissioner Chaid mentioned an organization that's a fairly large organization. I know myself that one of the largest organizations out here is Kaiser Permanente. They have what they call early in career positions where they are looking hard for people who are young, who have 0 to 5 years of work experience to come in and fill what they call their early in career positions. And there's a humongous diversity component in that particular program where they are looking to provide more opportunities or fill some gaps that they have where there's underrepresented people of color. So I would like, as part of our equity report, and I've added it, I've actually made my edits, I'll resend it. But I would like us to really, really look at a strategy where even when we are having our job fairs, we look at some of the larger employers in this area and we have them come out and present at job fairs, at this commission, and other opportunities that they can roll out to the community. Because one of the things that I think that for sure enables us to be able to rent a house or buy a house is being gainfully employed. I know that when a person can link themselves to a top tier organization and say that they work for that company, that applicant looks even more appealing to a person who has a house to sell or rent. So I want to really, really, really emphasize looking at getting some of our youth and not so young people into working in these top tier companies that are here in the Antelope Valley. This allows them to work in the area. A lot of people do commute who do earn the bigger dollars, but this would allow us to keep more dollars in our community, more people in the communities that they live in, and earning the types of income that allows them to purchase homes and get great apartments and even use some of their capital to start a business if they should happen to want to do that. So I have, and I'll just say that I would like us to really look at, and maybe this would be a work task group or so forth, but what I have been looking at in my just day-to-day visiting businesses is, and I'm looking at the diversity. I look at the employees. I look to see who's represented and who's not. And I can say from the ground and also from my own, like I said, more informal surveys, there are people that are not represented. These are some of the underserved people that this entire commission was built on or about us, our underserved, underrepresented population. So, I think that as part of our economic prosperity and I'll call it equity and employment, that we look at working and partnering with companies out here in the Antelope Valley, also looking at helping these partners to understand how to increase and their diversity amongst their co-workers or amongst their workforce, and also linking our wonderful citizens in the Antelope Valley, whether they have degrees or not, but to some of the top tier organizations that they can actually become gainfully employed with. And I'll land my mic on that.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I would say that in this equity report and from the work this commission has done when it comes to not forgetting about those who need a regular job, that's what we participated in the summer's job fair, and we got almost 200, if not more, young people connected to career opportunities that were from TransDav, all the way from TransDav to other other employers who are gainfully employed, and that was specifically aimed at getting young people connected to not just jobs but career paths. And we'll be partnering and again this winter in January with another job fair. But if it's something that you have in mind that goes beyond a job fair and goes more to sitting down with heads of these companies, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
And I think that the job fair was wonderful. I know that it was mentioned that there were 200 people that got connected. But I would like to know, like, what companies were at the fair? How many organizations were there? How many of the 200 people that connected actually got a job? And what kind of salaries did they garner by getting these jobs with these organizations? Are they still there? I mean, these are the types of things, because if we're talking about gainful employment, it's not about just connecting, it's about actually getting the job and staying there X amount of time and getting a salary that allows you to be marketable and able to sustain in the current economy in this city. And I happen to know for sure that when you are talking with the top tier companies are where you start seeing the salaries that fit in with the current economic situation and allow people to be able to buy homes and to rent houses or apartments at the will. And often not having to depend on a special program or anything. These people tend to earn bigger salaries at the top tier companies, and we have that available here in the Antelope Valley. And I think that there's an opportunity for us to really, really partner with those companies and get them on board to hire more people in the Antelope Valley. And that, and hopefully looking to, allow more members of this community to not only be able to live here, but to work in the same cities that they live in as well.
Absolutely. Could we reach out to our connect with the job fairs? I believe her name was Tiffany, and see what the data is about how many people were that came to the job fair or got the job, how long they've been there, because I know AJCC has all of that too. So yeah, that's important as well. But then and here's the line that we have to walk as members of a government, right? We can't compel companies to do things. We can't compel them to hire anybody, or we can't compel them to keep anybody on for a certain time. I think having the conversation is important, but what comes out of the conversation is also important too, because at the end of the day, the ball's in their court. At the end of the day, we can connect people to these organizations and to these companies, but what we can't do is say, you got to hire this many people. What we can't do is say that, we can't compel them to do anything because they're a private company. But what we can do...
But were the companies that were at the fair, those were private companies as well. And I believe that we can actually compel them, or at least we can try by building those relationships and letting these companies know that we are here. Again, many of the top tier companies, they are basically almost mandated to have what once were called affirmative action programs are now called, they're more like social responsibility programs or social responsiveness programs, and these are diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. There are top tier companies that are doing just what the work is that the City of Lancaster Social Equity Commission are doing. We are well positioned to align with these programs, these companies, and their diversity and inclusion programs. We can actually help them by providing them with the people sources that they are looking for to meet their social equity goals that are set forth in most cases in these companies by the presidents and CEOs. So we have, I believe, as the City of Lancaster Commission, we have a very highly compelling, for lack of a better word, argument to present to these companies. I believe that they would be glad to see us coming.
So what, just to be clear, so what actionable step would come from what you're saying?
From what actionable step would come?
Yeah, so like if we were like to put this on the timeline, like if we were to put this on our timeline of goals, like what specifically would we do to ensure that we are enacting what your priorities are? Like what would be the actual actionable step like for what you're saying?
One actionable step would be to reach out to the companies, get in touch with them about our commission and present ourselves to them and ask for the partnership.
And which companies would those be?
I would say the aerospace, definitely Kaiser Permanente. They have a huge endeavor. It's called their early in career. It's called early in career. 0 to 5 years experience. This is what they're looking for. And one of the things, I literally was in a meeting with the vice president over Kaiser marketing and strategy. And what's missing, what they speak on often, and one of the biggest things that they're trying to shift is into having the underserved people now represented within that organization. And they're missing the numbers. And Kaiser is just one company. And it's just part of the just the operations of many of these top tier companies is that they do have diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And
so can I make a suggestion, Chairman Carter, or no,
sure.
Vice Carter?
Go ahead.
I think, the different groups that we work with on these job fairs and, the different things that we do to try to encourage and spur job growth. We do all those things, but I think what would be helpful is if there's, direct relationships, because I think somebody pointed this out, but, we can reach out, but it's really up to them to want to participate. But, you specifically talked about like Kaiser, where you obviously have a relationship, and it would be great, if there was a contact, or if you could make contact and say, hey, we're having these job fairs and this is something that our commission is supporting. We would love to have you come out and talk to our youth and encourage them to apply for jobs at Kaiser. And hopefully that starts kind of a chain reaction and we can get additional people to come on board. Because I think we're doing the outreach. I mean, there's, the people that we work with on these job fairs, like that's their job, is to basically go out there and talk to people. And, we're hoping they're making that connection, but you're right. I think it could help if there's a personal connection with these organizations, and, we can encourage them to participate if they aren't already.
Thank you. And let's also not forget too that it is important for people. I understand the importance for people who are looking for a regular job too. And like I said, and like we've said, we can't compel companies to hire people. But we also have, like when I say that this is where mentality meets opportunities, we really mean that, right? So even though that there are people out there looking for those jobs and they run into roadblocks and they run into walls that governments can't right now really undo, because it gets to the company and the private level. But what we can do, and I'm going to swing that back to to investing in the entrepreneurial mentality of young people, of not just young people, of all of our people. And if we can foster that, then somebody could be getting their income, like I said, because I know people who pay their rent from DoorDash can be getting their income from contracting or freelancing, or if they want to find a job with Kaiser, if they can't get a job with Kaiser, maybe they can start their own company where they've created badges for nurses, or where they've created uniforms for healthcare workers, and then we can use our relationship with Kaiser to help them contract that way. And so even though so we have to kind of navigate, this is what our job is too, right? We have to navigate the do's and the don'ts and the cans and the cannots. So if we can't compel companies to invest into our citizens, what we can do is set up our citizens to become competition. This is the United States of America. Competition is important. And I'll put it like this, and this is just a hypothetical. If Kaiser doesn't want to hire somebody for their early start program, then what we can do with one of these workshops, or what we could do with the small business friendly city award, what we could do is create competition, because the mentality is still there. The get money, make money mentality is still there. The entrepreneurship is still there. So if somebody is being turned away for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure that person already has a business plan and just doesn't know how to implement it, or already has a goal, because nobody wants to work for somebody for the rest of their life. So they probably do. So if we can tap into that, and while we're working on what we just talked about and creating those relationships, but also on the other hand, in the interim, helping people create their own businesses, start their own whatever it is also important. So what you're saying, Yori, we can do, but at the same time, we can also foster that entrepreneurial spirit, and we should, because it's going to take a while before we get to that point where, or we might not ever get to that point, but it's going to take a while before we get to the point where we as a government can compel private businesses to hire here, even with community workforce agreements. And we've seen those, how much those work. But also I would say...
Okay.
Yeah, but no, but also I would say...
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, but it's not a but or, it's a and. And so, just like there's people that their life is not to go to school and get a 4-year degree, that's their role is to get a technical degree. Some people are going to end up being entrepreneurs, as you said. Some people are going to end up being CEOs at a large organization.
Yes.
We have so many different avenues and opportunities. We have so many brilliant people, especially amongst the, young people. It's just a whole other level. And we need to, I believe, we really do need to look at every way that we can make our community and people in it successful. And whatever that person's acclamation is, whether it's to be an entrepreneur, let's make that available. Whether it's to become, go up the corporate ladder ranks, let's make that available. Whether it's to, become a builder, a construction worker with, their own hands as their tools in their business. Let's make that available. I just believe that with so much out here, we should not limit ourselves to anything. And I'll consider, I'll just say, take this into consideration. While we cannot compel or control a company to hire somebody, we can't control or compel a bank to give a person a business loan. But what we can do is go out there, make the connections, and ensure that there are ample, many, maybe even more opportunities for our citizens than they can ever want or think of. But we can't take anything off of the table, and we cannot say, we should we look at what we can do. And I believe that we can do a whole lot more than we even can imagine or think. We just have to be tenacious, willing, and know that there's something called genius of and. There's more than one way to make something happen great. And we should go after every way that we possibly can.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Let's put it on paper and get it to the subcommittee by Christmas. Commissioner Deloche?
I got
Thank
it.
you. So for the sake of the agenda, I'd ask that the commissioners consider using this time to state some of the additions so that we can consider this a draft, so that we can bring this back to the commission so that we can add our edits and bring the same document back to the next meeting. So can we just list those things that we want to add, but at the same, or quick things, but at the same time take this document back so that we can add more things, add the additions, talk about the unenfranchised and additional facets of the 4 goals that we set.
So like quick notes, kind of like sort of thing.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that works really well.
Okay, so let me get this. So you're saying that we would make this a draft and then state the additions in this meeting.
Well, I would say make this a draft, but also keep it in draft format and give the commission access so that we can address some of the things that we would like to see, seeing as how we got it today, having more time to make those additions, because we still haven't talked about schools other than the fact of the disinformation. We had a committee that presented to us, and none of that information is in here. So again, I'm saying, can we make this a draft and can give everyone access to it so that we can add these additions, and then we can talk about those the next time we come, and then it can go to the subcommittee.
It was already a draft, so we'll keep it as a draft. But we would have to make, because this was a Word document, so we'll just make the Word document a Google Doc, and then send it to everybody so we can make it.
Can I interject?
Oh
really
yeah.
quick? So,
oh yeah. Sorry, Newsom.
There's always. We want to make sure that we follow the protocol. So I think the best way to achieve that, Dr. Deloche, is for we can send out the document and we would collect the feedback and then we will compile it. But I think that would be the best way to do it, just to make sure that we're complying with our rules. So, we can have Karen send that out, and then you guys have a week or two to make your updates or suggested changes. And then we can send that out to the group and go from there.
Actually, Patty, I have a suggestion. Let's do that, but with one caveat. Let's instead of bringing it back to the commission, let's give it to the subcommittee. Let's give so we're going to form the subcommittee today, and I would like them to start working already. So let's get the feedback and give it to the subcommittee. And when we create the subcommittee, and I know we're not on the agenda item yet, but when we create the subcommittee, we can give them the authority to make the necessary edits. Based on, so it can best encompass the input from the entire commission.
That's fine.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea, just because very, very, very briefly. I know that we talked a lot today about our priorities, but I really want to make sure that this is not just rhetoric.
Yeah.
Because speaking just a little bluntly, I know that that's something that we've struggled with just a little bit this past year. So I really want to make sure that everything that we are talking about is actionable. Like if it is not actionable, we just do not talk about it. So just like if we want to like reach out to people that are in the Antelope Valley and business owners and whatnot, let's go through a list and see like which ones we want to target so that we can ask city staff to do that so that is actionable.
Yes, absolutely. Does everybody here know how to eat an elephant?
I do not. I'm actually a vegan, so no.
You eat an elephant one piece at a time. one piece at a time. And it's important for us to, like Giovanni said, to have actionable items. And it's also, and this is where the subcommittee is going to be key too, because the subcommittee will be able to meet more often than we do in different settings than the entire commission. So that's why that's why it's on the agenda, and that's why we're going to create one specifically for this equity report.
Perfect.
So when we want to make additions to it, I think it'd be better to communicate with the subcommittee on, this is what we would like to do that. And I would give a week or so. I would say, a week, if Christmas is in a week, to get that to the subcommittee. And so that they could start working on that and implement it, and then bring it back to the commission and say, this is the presentation that we have. This is what we're going to go moving forward. This is based on that. And if the commission as a whole thinks that something else should be added, then so on and so forth. But again, we have been here for a year. Mm-hmm. We have been talking about a lot of stuff. We have been talking about stuff, and we have stuff on paper, and we've been talking about stuff that isn't on paper, and we have been writing stuff that we haven't talked about. Mm-hmm. But I believe if you all will agree with me by voting yes on this item, that this is the direction that we want to go in. Mm-hmm. And these 5 items will be our priorities for the next year.
Our pillars
For the next year, moving forward. Vice Chair, we can still hear
Chairman
you.
Cannon, can I
Go ahead.
again?
Go ahead, Patty.
I did get some clarification. We do need to go through the process just the way that I explained it. It has to go through staff. They can't go through a subcommittee. It has to go through staff. Everything has to be open to the public. I understand that we want to, be able to do some things on, just through subcommittee, but that's the rule that we have to follow. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Absolutely, but we can give it to staff, and staff could send it out to subcommittee, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that everything has to go through
staff.
It just has to be transparent. Yeah. Through staff.
That's what I was thinking. I'm sorry if I didn't communicate that, but that was my thinking.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And Katie, feel free to if there's anything specific that I'm missing, please feel free to add.
Got it. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. That is exactly what I was thinking. So, yes, I'm sorry if I didn't state it, but that is exactly what I was thinking.
Okay, great.
Are there any other commissioners?
So we're voting on. So do we need to take a vote, Katie? Because I think they were just continuing the discussion, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. You are continuing the discussion with returned comments to staff for any additions or changes that each commissioner would like to make.
Got it.
Okay, great. So we're not voting on that. So we're moving on to the next agenda.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, everybody, for your input on that. And this is some tedious work, but we're going to get it done. And like Mr. Pope said, I almost called him commissioner, but I'm calling him Mr. Like Mr. Pope said, let's do some actionable items, and next year it will be the year of action. All right, NB1, discussion and possible action of a social equity subcommittee to develop the equity report presentation for the city council. Like I said, it is necessary for us to create a subcommittee so that they could comprise and format and create and present the presentation to the city council. Is there any discussion?
I think a lot of the discussion that we just had proves the relevancy and need for this subcommittee. So I have no additional comment at this time.
Any other commissioners? Hearing none, are there any speakers for NB1?
We do not have any speaker cards, nor do we have any callers.
Okay, the chair can make a motion, right? Can I?
You can make a motion, but just make sure it's kind of a threefold, because you're taking your draft from CD1 with comments provided that the commissioners are going to provide to you if you want to add a date to it as to when these additional comments are going to be received. And then number 3,
So will we be discussing who is on the subcommittee tonight?
You can volunteer.
Okay.
Yes.
3 commissioners can volunteer.
Okay.
So let me just make sure I have this right. It's a 3-vote motion. They would take the CB1 draft.
The purpose of the commission is 3 items, and then you're going to take volunteers.
Okay, 3 items. So to make sure I got it right, CB1 draft, take comments, take
The
the,
new comments from today,
mhm,
and if you want to put a date as to when you're expecting that feedback,
December
Yes.
24th
to staff.
to staff.
And will staff be in the office on December 24th?
They'll get it though, right? You'll get it like after the holiday is over, right? Yeah, that's
Okay.
just the deadline. You don't have to. You guys don't have to come in on Christmas.
Okay,
Jesus.
yeah.
Like no, but that's a good. I think that's a good deadline.
I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost in anybody's inbox.
So CB1 draft, take the comments from the staff, and then draft and present the report
At the next
at the next.
commission. That's the purpose of your creation of this subcommittee, is for those tasks to be completed.
Draft, present. Hold on, guys. We'll make sure I got this motion right. Okay. So I move that we create a social equity subcommittee for the equity report with the task of taking the draft from CB1, getting new comments from the commissioner that will be provided to them from staff, and using that to draft an equity report that they will present at the next commission meeting.
Your presentation.
That they will present at the next, right?
They're drafting your city council presentation.
They're drafting our city council presentation that they will show us at the next commission meeting. Does anybody need me to restate that?
I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion?
We didn't discuss if there would be members of the community on the subcommittee, so is that possible?
The subcommittee can only be comprised of commissioners, but the subcommittee, correct me if I'm wrong, but the subcommittee can meet, and they can meet with members of the community.
Okay.
All right. Any more discussion? Let's vote.
Commissioners Deloche,
Aye.
Joseph, Commissioner Joseph. I do see that you are on the call, but I do not have any audio. Commissioner Joseph,
Aye.
Commissioner Pope,
Aye.
Vice Chair Carter,
Aye.
Chairman Cannon,
Aye.
and it passes unanimously.
Thank you. Let's get to work. Can we take volunteers now? Would anybody like to volunteer for this subcommittee?
I would.
We got our first volunteer.
The subcommittee's drafting the report. Is that correct?
Yes, the subcommittee will be drafting the report.
Okay, I'll volunteer.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, I can volunteer myself. The chairman's on the subcommittee. Thank you, everybody. Can I give, I don't have to vote on that, right? Can we give direction on when we would meet, when we have our first meeting? Or can we just? Okay, cool. I'll be reaching out to the subcommittee so that we can meet, and we will do that before Christmas.
And just to be clear, the deadline for additional comments for the equity report is December 24th. I just want to make sure everybody has that date in stone.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
awesome.
We're good on that, right? Okay. Moving on. NB2. Can we ask for speakers first? Any speakers for NV2?
There are no speaker cards, nor are there any callers at this time.
All right. January Youth Job Fair. Does staff want to make any comments about that? I think all of us know that we're going to have a youth job fair this January. with some of the same organizations that we had in the summer one, and this one I think is going to be more on foster youth. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can speak on that. The event is tentatively planned for January 19th, which is the Wednesday. It's also the same day as the next commission meeting. And it will be at Sergeant Owen Park in the Activity Center. So there'll be multiple employers, opportunities for interviews on site, and it'll be very similar to the summer event. Hopefully, though, this next event will have more employers. That's the plan. They're working on a flyer right now. They haven't gotten it to me yet, but I will share that once that's ready.
Thanks, Karen. Do they already have all the employers? Is it full already for employers, or are they still looking for some?
Last I heard from Tiffany, they're still working on that.
All right. Can we make some suggestions? Because we've got some from this meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
Kaiser Aerospace?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Can we, Vice Chair, this is an opportunity.
Yes.
This is an opportunity right here to get some of those companies involved in the job fair that's coming up in January. Also, and for us to make that initial connection, if one has not already been made, between our commission and them, and invite them to that. And so just keep in mind, and let's get those. If you do have a list, I already put Kaiser and Aerospace down. I think those are two good employers to invite. But if you know of any others, please get that over to staff so they can participate.
Can we list the one that Commissioner Shai? He mentioned one that was looking for people.
LASA, yes.
Yeah, I think
Let's
LASA's been one of their contacts. That's I know that they participated in the last youth job fair, so I'm going to assume that they'll probably participate in this one as well.
Thank you, Patty. Guys, LASA does amazing work. The only issue is that there are not enough interested applicants for the work that they do. So if anybody's out there listening, all of the 20 people that have listened online, let people know that LASA is hiring. The work that they do is essential to the community, is essential to the county, and it's essential to our unhoused population. So the more people that we can get to apply for jobs over at LASA, the better. And some amazing people work there, and they need more amazing people. I'm a shameless plug too, Chahid.
I wasn't even plugging them. It's just anytime when I hear somebody who needs a job, it might be my neighbor whose job's hiring. Just so happened that mine was hiring. That's why I said it. You know, it's you know, there's plenty of people. You know what I mean? A lot of people use LASA as a springboard to do something else. You know, it's and they welcome you back. That's, you know, so that's why I just said it, you know. And he said his friend worked in government, degree, all that. That's just all those check boxes. Like, wow, you can get a job anywhere within the county and in these different agencies, you know.
Thank you, Commissioner. Public business from the floor.
This is the time to address the Lancaster Social Equity Commission on non-agendized matters. Speaker cards can be found on the back table of the council chambers. And for anyone participating telephonically and wishing to comment on non-agendized items, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the commission from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Please press star 9 at this time. Guy Jung.
Hi, this is Sky Jung speaking. As many of you may know, I'm with A-Track here in Palmdale. And I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for all the work you've done throughout the year. You guys are amazing. Big kudos to you guys. And also to at least myself, extend the olive branch that maybe we may work together in the coming year. And to also wish you guys a Merry Christmas. Thank you, and that's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Sky. We look forward to working with you in the future, and thank you for all the work that you're doing as well over in the city of Palmdale and the greater Antelope Valley. Mm-hmm. We're all in this together. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and happy holidays to you and your family as well. Thank you so much.
Any other speakers?
We do not have any additional speakers at this time.
All right, Commissioner comments. Are there any comments from the commissioners?
Just one very, very brief one, because I know that we are on a time crunch. So I was talking with some city staff today, and one of the things that came up was we need to start thinking about Martin Luther King Day of Service. Now that our commission is formed, now that we have the opportunity to think very clearly about what our priorities are for the community, I think that it would also be advantageous for us to start thinking about what we want to do for Dr. Martin Luther King Day of Service, because we definitely need to be leaders on that frontier. So we don't have to go through ideas now, because that would be more of a brainstorming session. But if we could also have ideas for Martin Luther King Day of Service on a service project that somebody would want to do, or what have you, submitted by, again, the deadline for the social equity report, which would be December 24th, I think that would be a very good idea, pending Commissioner Cannon's approval or Chairman Cannon's approval. And then also very briefly, one of the things that came up in that discussion was making sure that we are extending all of these outreach efforts to all of our city instead of to a certain segment of our city. So making sure that we are enfranchising everyone on the east side. So I would challenge everyone that is thinking about service projects to ensure that a lot of those service projects are east side Lancaster minded. Obviously, we want to be encompassing of Lancaster as a whole, but I also know that we want to make sure that we are extending our outreach to our east side family as much as possible. So that's very briefly what I have to say on that. And it doesn't have to be a service project in the granular way that we think about service projects, because I think it's very easy to get bogged down in that. Doing a mentorship day or doing a workshop. I see that there are several people that are well established in their community on this commission right now. So possibly offering a mentorship day on Martin Luther King Day of Service for a resume workshop or something of that nature. I know that that would possibly be something that the impact students would be interested in doing. So whatever sort of ideas we have, making sure that we have them submitted by December 24th, making sure that we are really active and vocal on the day of service, but also making sure that we are not thinking about service in a granular mindset. I think that a lot of people already have the trash cleanups and whatnot covered, but I don't think that people possibly have the mentorship component covered, or the resume building component covered. And so I would challenge us with this upcoming year, and especially with that day, we are thinking about service to our community a little bit more holistically.
You know what's something that just came to mind about that? What if we did the mentor day thing for, I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah.
What if we did the mentorship day for the students or the young people that are currently in placements in Lancaster? Group homes.
I think that that would be an incredible idea. I truly, truly do.
I think so too.
Especially because I think that it would do a lot of people a lot of good to see that you can come from a lot of various circumstances and still be able to have the final product, which is us. Yep. So, absolutely. And there are 7 commissioners, so possibly each one of us could be at a different event or doing something of that nature, or without violation of the Brown Act, coming together to do 2 service projects or what have you. But I really want to challenge every single one of our commissioners, all 7, to be doing something for Martin Luther King Day, because there is no reason, and I mean none, why we should not. I can't think of one.
Thank you, Commissioner Pope.
No problem.
Commissioner Delos, any comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Joseph, any comments?
No, sir. Ready to get to these kids.
Me too, man. Me too. Vice Chair Carter?
No comments.
Well, thank you all. Our terms are up for this year. last city council meeting, there was an item on the agenda, CA1, where it was the routine reappointments of all the commissioners, and that was put on hold until January 1st. I would encourage every one of us, every one of these commissioners, to think hard about the next year and think hard about what your goals are for this next year as it relates to this commission, and think hard about what we will be doing in the interim. And if you believe that now is the time to bow out, do so, because everybody. There's so much work has been done over the past year that I'm so proud of each and every last one of you. But I also want to make sure that moving forward in this next year and in this next year of action, that we are ready to do what we set out to do, that we are ready to utilize what we have learned, and we are ready to interpret the data that we have gathered. I'm very interested in using the impact team. Thank you, Commissioner, for bringing that up. When it comes to in the schools, when we try to help battle disinformation, there's nobody, we should start by meeting with the impact team and getting their input on that as well. I would love for them to be involved in those discussions and in the implementation of that. I also want us to prioritize youth enfranchisement. I think that every one of these items in this report does that, but Commissioner Pope is right. Youth enfranchisement is important, and I would love to work with our impact team more. So if we could reach out to, I forgot her name.
Alexis?
Yes. Reach out to Alexis. I'd love to sit down with Alexis and talk. And bring Gio, too, so that she knows that I know somebody from Impact. He could just sit there.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
But yes, everybody, we've been here for a year. Please think about it. Think about where you're going to go from here. Think about what you can bring to the table. And think about whether or not you've done all you can do. The last thing I want is for anybody getting burnout. So the last thing I want, because we're about to go for it in 2022. So again, I want to thank everybody so much for everything they have. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, all of that. And much love from your chairman,